Perfect.
Okay.
So then the first question is, was the opportunity that Carpenter identified in late 2005 promising? In this assessment, suspend your judgment of Carpenter's implementation plan and focus solely on the potential of the business model that he initially proposed. Personally, I don't think it was very promising.
Yeah, I don't.
Because it was so awkward.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like I said before, I guess we started the recording. It just seems like a weird, because like I mean I know in like the digital age, everyone's sharing everything on social media and like getting way too personal about sharing, you know, things they shouldn't. But I think like finances is still a super private thing. Like if I had a bank that said, "Hey, we got this cool feature that lets your friends see what's in your balance of your account," I wouldn't be like, "Yeah, I want to use this bank," you know.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just a small aspect of what Cake Financial was doing, but still, I think it's not a very good idea.
Yeah, I like the concept, just because personally I trust the advice of my friends, but I just don't know if there's a good way to go about that. Like you guys said, that's just kind of awkward, and I mean I don't want my friends to see that kind of information about me. So I like the idea. I just don't know if, for me, if there was a way to really make that work.
Yeah.
So essentially, I think what I'm gathering is that we like the idea of having a place where all these companies can come together, but we don't want it to be publicly displaying their financial statements and their investments.
Right. Yeah, it's because having everything you need in one spot is super nice, you know, because if you're going to seek out the advice of your friends, you'll probably talk to them in person, you know, or, you know, email or something, but you don't need to like have it out to sea. And then, you know, if you start doing well, then you have a bunch of people like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like, you know, it just seems like it'd be super annoying, you know, like being like, "I'm not a financial advisor. I don't want people coming up to me and asking me like, 'Hey, I saw you were doing really well. So like, what's your strategy? What are you doing?'" You know? If, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the concept is really cool. But I think just being a little bit more secured, kind of, you can share that information to specific people. Sending out a document with, say, your spreadsheet of your investments or profit, and having like a specific password to log in, something like that, where you can't be able to share it or do anything like that. But the concept is interesting, but it needs to be a little bit more secured, I think.
So with his business model, what were the key elements that you feel would have been beneficial?
So I think when he didn't go with Yodel or Yodlee, whatever, how do you say that? And he tried to make his own programming and everything. I think if he would have used that data vendor, it probably would have helped cut down on a lot of costs and development time. Well, I guess on development costs, but you know, he'd have to pay Yodel to do all the data. But I think it would have helped him in the long run to not have to worry about that'd be one less thing you'd have to worry about.
Yeah.
I think that a big factor in all of this was that he had an unrealistic idea of what was going to happen as far as like his projections went. They talk about it when he tested his item. They said that they validated their high level concept, but they didn't seek feedback, so the focus groups were not very helpful to them.
Yeah.
And with that product development, I think that was something that they could have been better at. They talk about they would have learned more by building a lightweight product and watching how investors used it, I think that would have been a key element that would help their business model succeed.
I agree with that. It seems like he just really didn't understand what actually goes into developing something like that. He didn't understand the process and kind of said, okay, well, if I have a bunch of money, then I'll be able to make a bunch of money quick. And it just didn't really turn out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was kind of getting a little bit ahead of himself. When he started looking, he didn't really care if people were actually, going with cake at first, as long as, it was out there and available. And he wanted an entire index to be based around his company. You know what I mean? I understand. It's a good idea to have pretty good goals, but I think that's getting a little ahead of yourself before you're even established, to be trying to get it set up so you have an index based off of your entire just your, portfolio management company, a little ambitious to me.
From the snow building to a and so she
Then that kind of leads into number 2 about what were the assumptions behind his initial business model and what did he do to test these. So we talk about he tested it with the focus groups, but it didn't produce the type of feedback that was actually beneficial.
Yeah. So I read this 3 days ago. Did they do anything else besides the focus groups? Because I think that's all I remember reading, right? I don't know. Maybe I missed a part, but I'm pretty sure I only remember him using the focus groups to see if it would work. But it seems like a pretty large, not a very good testing pool to test a product out. I feel like you should have multiple different avenues of approach than just maybe a little more release a beta and have it all tested out before trying to run it to the Crunch 40. Just try to test it out a little bit. I think he just was again too ambitious.
And I think he was a little bit not short-sighted, but talks about how he focused all his attention on getting ready for that initial launch at whatever little competition that was. And then right afterwards, they ran into a lot of problems with the user interface. So kind of like you said, I think they could have done more beta testing, got more user feedback, and that would have helped out, maybe smooth out the rollout process rather than just gearing up for that, the Tech 40 or whatever it was, and then kind of crashing or having issues after that.
Yeah. I think you wanted so much, or when you get that much, a program that does that much, it takes a lot of work to get it to run properly. But along with that, having like they said, Mint was super easy to use and user friendly, and it sounded like his financial wasn't as user friendly.
Right, and he was more focused on the back end. He had linked with Morningstar and a lot of other data companies, so he had great data, but it wasn't as appealing as Mint. And the demographic that was using it, or that was more inclined to use those social media or those apps, was more drawn to Mint because they were more visually appealing and a little bit easier to navigate. So he probably had a better back end, but just initially, his conversion rates were terrible because people were getting on and just not attracted to it at all.
Yeah.
So I would say his main assumptions were that when he took the product to that event, it would be an instant success, and all of the money and funding he needed in order to drive the company forward. That's kind of my understanding, but I could be wrong.
That seems like I'd say that's a pretty good assumption. Analysis of that, because, when you start talking about the TechCrunch 40 competition. He said he just kind of started rushing into it to submit it by the due date instead of, instead of just being like, hey, let's just, get things going and we can submit it next year or, the next time they do it, instead of just rushing everything and trying to get it on there. And I understand trying to get exposure, and that's good, but negative exposure is worse than no exposure.
I would agree with that.
So like my assumption was I was trying to while I was reading, it was kind of like they were trying to they wanted just one place to watch and manage their investment.
Sorry.
Can you repeat what you said, Jesse?
They would have hello, can you hear me?
You're breaking out quite a bit, at least on my end.
Okay.
My end too.
Yeah, I can't hear much.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, that's it.
They wanted a company and manage their investments, which I kind of felt like it's not bad, but as they were growing, they would have seeked out more. Like if it was me, for example, I would try to have 2 or 3 more other people ask a certain area to keep on checking what's having, and so if sometimes you could have 3 or 2 different information and trying to compare them and trying to see what's the difference, if that did everybody hear?
It's still pretty choppy.
From the bits that I heard, Jesse, are you recommending that he see what's in the market and compare the products and see how he can make improvements based off of that?
Like yes and no. For to me, like if I was him, if for a safe side, I would have more than one company or one person looking into the investments, but which they don't even know each other. It's so you could be able to compare the difference.
So he should seek out advice from people who understand the industry that he's entering.
Basically, okay, I'll go with it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand.
I think
Nice.
to me, the whole thing just seemed really rushed. If you look, I think he finished his Series A funding. It was around March. And then suddenly, he had an initial plan for November, and then it got pushed up to September for the TechCrunch 40. And so I think maybe this is what Jesse was going to a little bit, or I just feel like the whole thing was rushed for that competition, which would have been a huge boost. So it's kind of high risk, high reward. If he would have won it, it would have been a big boost. But the trade-off was he had to rush, and he lost 2 extra months that could have been used on beta testing or gathering more knowledge and information. and because he pushed it up, he maybe lost out on some time that he could have used to troubleshoot and make it an even better product with a smoother rollout.
I truly agree that it was rushed, though.
So then for number 3, was Carpenter's decision to sell Cake's assets. Should he have done this sooner? Should he have given the subscription product more time to develop? Personally, I think he should have sold sooner to just kind of flip the investment as soon as he could.
I agree. That's what I put down when I did the assignment. I think waiting until they ran out of money put them in a bad negotiating position. You know, you can kind of see the writing on the wall and realizing, you know, that they were like losing money, and they were headed that route. They should have tried to sell a little bit sooner. That way they could have you had a little bit better negotiating position to get a little more money for the product, you know, rather than, hey, we're out of money, we need someone to buy us now, you know, because then, you know, whoever E-Trade, Scottrade, any one of those could come in and just be like, well, look, we know you're out of money, so, you know, here's the lowest, you know, amount they could give them. So I think it would have been better for them to sell sooner.
I agree.
Yeah, I understand the emotional tie to want to try to hold on. I mean, he did a lot. He was taking lots of red eyes and meeting and getting in front of everybody that he could. So I understand. I completely agree. He had the right choice to sell. He probably could have gotten more out of it if he did it sooner. Like as mentioned, he just got to the point where he had no leverage. He was going against companies like E-Trade and Schwab and Fidelity, who were big companies. And it even mentioned they liked his idea. They talked about it a lot, but they had the luxury of having that leverage and just sitting back and either waiting for him to sell or doing something on their own. So he made the right choice to sell, but I agree he probably should have done it sooner before he completely bled out and maybe negotiated from a point of a little more strength.
Yeah.
I have to disagree. Hi.
All right, Jesse, you said, well, I don't know if we got it from anyone else. You said, I disagree, and then it cut out for me.
Yeah, that's all I heard.
I apologize. I don't understand what's going on with my connection today. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, I said, like, I disagree. I believe he did it at the right time. Because if he would have done it sooner, he may not have been established. His product basically to bring buyers. He would have given it in more time. Like he would have given it more time to at the beginning, mostly to do things and prepare himself. I think it was kind of like late to try to adjust, but he like that was just the right time for him to propose things and to work on things.
Sorry, guys, my connection just dropped and I got back.
Okay.
And I think his biggest downfall, and I think he mentioned it, was he was so reliant on another. I mean, a big part of his company was reliant on working with other companies. So being able, they talked about big pain points for clients, was they couldn't integrate all of their brokerage accounts or things like that. And so it's just a huge issue trying to rely on other companies. And maybe if he held on a little bit longer, he could have figured that out. But that just seemed like an obstacle. There's too many issues with the interface and the user experience to overcome initially, and it just kind of seemed a little bit rushed and doomed from the start, especially when Mint was, like he said, their counter opposite, doing so well and took off a lot quicker.
But I feel if everybody can hear me, but it's kind of like if anybody has their own business and you're trying to join other forces, I don't think they would value you more important than what they have going on before. So it's kind of like an add-on to you're just like another group just adding on to what they have on top. So I wouldn't expect if me joining another if I have a business idea to another company, they would value me as much.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Like if you worked on a business and built it yourself, like you're gonna have a lot more value into it. But that's that doesn't necessarily, that like sentimental value doesn't really translate into intrinsic value. But if you're gonna, like we said before, like if you're gonna have to sell, I think I'd rather go in as a negotiating statement that like, hey, I'm not on the brink of bankruptcy. My company's doing okay. I feel like that'd be a pretty good exit. And then he can take that money to fund it. He seems like a pretty smart guy. He can take that money and start a new venture with the money he got from the exit.
I agree. And just leading into the next question, I would say that this was a good failure for him. I think that there was a lot of things that he reflects on and he can take away from this experience to apply to a potential new venture.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only way this would have been a bad failure is if he would have went bankrupt, because then he had to have nothing, all that investors' money, everything that he's worked towards, everybody who he employed, they'd all just be out of a job, you know what I mean? Just, they've got nothing out of taking their time to invest in his company. But I think that exit, getting the company sold, getting something back, then the investors actually can see a return because they took it to Scott when Scott Trade bought it. It seemed like it did pretty good. So, or it was a useful. It seems like it's a good failure to me.
Yeah, I think he was able to look back and say like, I really put everything into it. I mean, he was taking a couple red-eye flights every month, and to me, he really didn't give it everything. And now he's that I would do these things differently, and then he's a better entrepreneur because of that. So to me, just the effort he put into it and then learning the lessons, I'd consider it a great.
Yeah, I agree. He says Silicon Valley tolerates failure as long as you don't consistently lose money for investors. And a first-time entrepreneur makes a lot of mistakes can be avoided the second time. So just for learning, sometimes the best way to learn is to fail. And so as long as he can take the mistakes of this, maybe and making a different decision or a better decision the next time, definitely a good failure and something that he can learn from and build on.
And I really do agree with that comment, which is I have a friend we were talking about falling down, like sometimes even we were talking about just the answer no. It's not just it's a really good answer. It depends how you take it. and it depends how you fall and try to get up. Sometimes some people just might want to just stay down, and other people might be like, oh, okay, I failed, but okay, what's can I get back up? Can I do the same thing, or do I need to do something else different? Or what was it? What different approaches do I need to take this time to be able to succeed?
Yeah, I agree.
Just as a note, I have to go to another meeting, and I promise next week I'll be able to stay for all of this one. Can everyone send in their Gmail to the group email, and then I can post the notes that I took to a Google Doc that has all of us on it?
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys.
All right. So does anyone want to take over as scribe for the next one?
For the
Cool.
for the A16Z one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do it. So I jumped in a little bit late. So basically just detailing who said what and
Yeah, we have to turn in an assignment, a group assignment that says, sorry, I have it here somewhere. Sorry, yeah, I had it up. So we take after we go over everything, we need to write a convincing response to the questions. And then we just take a vote on it and say if that's what we're going to do, I think. It's like the questions are, so it's like, what should Steve Carpenter have done differently that might have led to a successful venture? Give specific actions and expected results. General thoughts will not be sufficient. And then should A16Z seek to double its assets under management over the next 2 years? If you support rapid expansion, would you diversify in other sectors? For example, life sciences, clean tech, or geographies, China or New York.
okay.
Write our responses and then we'll submit it to them. But we can go over everything else, and then we can hit those last 2 questions at the end.
Yeah, I can still go over in this next one.
Okay. So Darby was going over just the questions from the case preps. So was the venture capital an attractive industry to enter in 2009? What entrepreneurial opportunity did address and empower at sea? So I think it's kind of cool how they took the venture capitalism industry, and instead of just trying to stick into that little niche, like, oh, I'm a VC, so I stick with VC stuff, and started going with like a larger network and getting a lot more people involved in it. I thought was a really smart idea, because then it's super easy you get that networking going. It gives other people opportunities to actually invest in the VC or in venture capitalism, where they otherwise would not really be involved. And then with that networking, you get a lot more people with certain specializations that can really help out certain ventures. So I thought it was kind of a pretty cool little opportunity.
So yeah, I agree with that. I think is this where I read that they would only hire people into their firm who had CEO or entrepreneurial experience. So kind of piggybacking along what Alex said, just this gave them a unique talent network or pool of people that was different from what anyone else was doing. I think it was Horowitz wrote a blog post. It was the 4 things I see venture capital do that are wrong or that I don't like. And just reading that gave me a lot of insight into them and their unique opportunity and value that they provided to clients. It almost seemed like they were venture capitalists of entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, and they understood the value of their time and the importance of their business, and it just gave them a unique opportunity to really come in and differentiate themselves.
Anyone else want to weigh in on that? All right. Well, to succeed as a VC, you have to do 3 things really well: source, pick, and win. What traditional VC firm do you, or firm to do source, pick, and win? How does A16Z approach these key success factors differently than other VC firms?
I think one thing that stood out to me was they talked about they did a monthly report on all their peers, and they looked at the deals that their peers did that they passed on, and they looked at deals that they did that their peers passed on, and then they looked at deals that everybody did. I thought it was a very unique way to look at them as a company, and then look at the industry as a whole, and see maybe ideas that they were missing or opportunities that they weren't seeing. And so it just like you said, it mentions you have to be able to source the best deals, pick the right opportunities, and you have to win the business. So I think what they did each month, looking at their peers in the industry, gave them a huge opportunity, or was probably a really great learning experience for them as they tried to grow, to see what others were doing and learn from the mistakes and the successes of others.
Is kind of like how saying it, answering the second question. I was saying like I like your comment, by the way. What's your name? Is it Mark or?
Hey, I'm Chris.
Oh, Chris. I apologize, Chris. I was. I was. My internal, or this is my personal opinion. Is kind of like, I would have people from the same, not the same company, but people which they don't know. Try to they always do the same thing, but always try to see what's the difference of each when they bring the progress report. This is what you did, and this is what you missed. So where you're trying to look at them both and trying to see, okay, what is company A coming with, and what is company B is coming with, and try to them figure in a better standpoint. Are you doing what you're supposed to do, or who's actually focusing better and trying to help you as a company, if that makes sense.
I did. You cut out a little bit, but I kind of got the idea, and I agree. Bringing in different viewpoints and looking at companies who may be doing things better than you are always good ways to learn.
All right. So, Mark or McKay, do you guys have anything to add?
No, I mean, I think you guys are covering it very well. I think A16Zs. They do very well like the other VC companies. I think that they have a really good networking thing going on where they just kind of collaborate and get to know each other, what they're working on. Yeah, that's what I kind of found with 16Z. I think that's what they do very well. They just work well with other companies like HP and others.
Okay. Sorry.
Just not much more I can add. I agree with all of that. Definitely.
So if you were the first-time founder of a tech startup seeking Series A's investors, would you find A16Zs? I don't know what you say. Value proposition attractive? Would you choose A16Z over a different VC company?
Yeah, I would 100%. I love the idea of a VC firm being run by people who actually started and operated businesses and understand what entrepreneurs and startup companies are going through. Again, I loved his blog post about the 4 things. It really made me feel like he understood entrepreneurs and he wasn't just, he talked about how some VC firms get really, really hands-on and are quick to force out CEOs when things go bad. So like Mark mentioned, I think they just have a really unique and cool way of attracting talent and people that they look for. And this allows them to better understand the entrepreneurs they're working with. And then in turn, I think that makes them easier to work with. And in the long run, they'll see better results because they understand what the startups are going through. And they're just better able to relate to them. And they're much more than just a number and an investment.
And I think I completely agree there. Just, if I'm starting a company and it's my first time, then I'm just looking for advice. I'm looking for somebody who understands me. Like you said, just it can't just be a number. And so somebody who's been there, who's been in my shoes, I'd absolutely go that route.
I could kind of disagree and disagree in both. This is where, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. As a startup company, I would really need help from or any information I could get my hands on or any help I could get because sometimes I would say some people if I could go with somebody who has to say who has been there before, but sometimes too do they have more knowledge than the other people, or it's as starting up is kind of risky at the same time because every little bit helps. So and would I go with him? Yes. But will I still keep my mind open for other ideas, other information? So to me, it's kind of like both 50-50.
Definitely.
Yes.
So move on to the next one. Should A16Z seek to double their assets under management over the next 2 years? If you support the rapid expansion, would you diversify into other sectors and geographies, or one or the other? So I think they should try to double. I think they got a really good plan going. I would probably stick with the one sector to begin with, and then maybe branch out to China and New York, kind of lock down the, a little more the tech sector, show that they like prove themselves in the sector, expand into China, New York, and then once they lock down the tech sector, it'll be a lot easier to gain expertise from people in the life sciences, the clean tech, and then when they're already established in these different geographies, they'll be able to just transition right into these other sectors. And I think that'll help them out in the long run.
Yes, I agree that they should seek to double. I think they mentioned the largest VC in the industry have like 13 billion in capital, which is more than 5 times what they have.
Yeah.
I think the more you try to expand, the riskier it's going to be. But I think sometimes, those risks can be worth taking. I think they talked about Elon Musk venting his frustration with VCs not willing to back transformative ideas. So I think clean energy and things like that offer a really, really unique opportunity that no other VC is in. Obviously risky, but sometimes if you can be first, it provides you a huge upside that you can't get if you were to wait and somebody else were to beat you there.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the trade-off is, but I think it's definitely worth looking into. If they could be the first VC to really capitalize on that clean energy or an area that not many other venture capital firms are willing to go right now, it could be very, very beneficial to them in the long run.
Especially in the big marketplaces like China or New York. I mean, these places have millions of people, China billion. So I think the opportunity is much larger in those spaces. I think they'll fail in some aspects, but I think, like you guys said, it's worth going into for sure, especially in places like China and New York.
Yeah.
I'd say that if the foundation wasn't as set as it is, then definitely don't. But they've got it. They've really got something, and take the risk. I think that the risk is reasonable.
Yeah, I think with the expanding into the other sectors, like when you brought up Elon Musk, how he was kind of salty about VCs not wanting to invest in stuff, but you got to look at it from they're looking at a brand new company, and it's a pretty big gamble to put a lot of money into something that's not really proven, but so I think I would probably stick with more of just extending in the tech sector for geographies, but and then maybe once I'm established in these other geographies to, dip my feet into the water, see how the life sciences or the clean tech, and then that way I don't put all my, because I know, the tech sector is just going to continue to grow. That way I'm not, jumping in head first into something that could be, the kiddie pool, thinking it's an ocean. So.
Yeah, that's true. There's, if you went, had somebody gone with like a Tesla with Elon Musk, high risk, high reward, right? Yeah. So I guess it depends on where they want to go. I think they could get to be one of these bigger firms through slow and steady growth, or it takes one big hit or a couple big hits on some of these companies, and it can really help you out. So the foundation's there. I think they have the talent to do it. But it could also blow up in their face if they pick the wrong company in like a clean energy type of sector and it just didn't work.
And you're very right, and I really value that comment, because sometimes you could pick companies, and sometimes it depends. I have a friend who always says high risk, high reward, and it's called, it could it could, like, everything you've investment could just get lost, like you might lose it all, and which sometimes it depends of what what are they offering that the other people are not, and what else are they bringing in the market that you could see could make a big impact. So and a lot of more information out there So I could really say I do agree. I do agree with you.
Cool. So let's do so what, sorry, we have to do a vote and propose something else. Propose like so we should propose what Carpenter should have done differently. Let me double check. All right, so on the cake one, what, I guess we already covered all that. And then okay, so we need to take a vote as a group, and the decision must be unanimous on, as we consider the following. So how many portfolio companies can one general partner reasonably support? That's from the cake. And then are there economies of scale in this business? And will you have hired more operating team people? If so, will the partners actually make more money for doubling their assets, or will additional profits go to hiring more people? Oh, I lied. You know, it looks like it's not from Cake Financial. We're only looking at the AZs. So we have to take a vote on how many companies one general partner can reasonably support.
So where are you getting these questions? Because I'm in a group. I just see that we have to write the convincing responses to 2 questions.
The group discussion at the very bottom.
So if you go to the end of week, it's in the group discussion.
Yeah, the group discussion instructions at the very bottom. So how many I don't remember reading how many different corporate or ventures each partner was running. Let's see here. And maybe from like Exhibit 9 on the.
Alrighty, let me go look here real quick. So how many portfolio companies can one general partner reasonably support?
Yeah.
Back.
Because it looks like, you know, I mean, looking at the top tier venture capitalism firms for Exhibit 9, it looks like a lot of them only have 15, you know, it kind of varies anywhere from 2 to 1. It's looking like.
So where?
I lied. I'm not looking at the right thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because Exhibit 9 doesn't really talk about how many portfolios they have. It talks about
how many general partners they have.
I want to see if there's anything else in any other exhibits.
On that front page, it says that there were 6 other general partners. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, there's 8. There's 8 with Horowitz's company, but you know, some of them have 20, and you know, but it doesn't look like they have any more. Well, I guess we can look at assets. Oh, that's not what I wanted.
You go to Exhibit 5. What is a principal? Is that a
Exhibit 5. I keep rotating it because it's like sideways. Keep rotating it. I think that might be how many people they have invested in their a principal. I think that's a company they've invested in, right?
maybe? I'm not finding anything that show.
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Exhibit 7 doesn't talk about any statistics of more people. Exhibit 8, there's just questions. Exhibit 9, and notes. Yeah, so I have no idea where to find statistics on this.
Yeah, that seems like a weird. I don't remember reading anything about them saying which or like how many, per general partner.
Kinda, I'm lost too.
Tell you what, I know that's supposed to be like the way to do things is this case study, but all I've been doing is case studies in every one of my classes for the last like 3 semesters, and I hate them. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just trying to do maybe I'm trying to do a Control F through the actual reading, what I can find.
Yeah.
It was somewhere that I just read over it. Anything.
Okay, let's see. Let's see.
Let's see. So I found something that says, it says most venture capital partners sat on no more than about 10 portfolios companies' boards. Beyond that point, they could be stretched too thin to be effective at advising the companies.
Oh, dang it. Yeah, I do remember reading that.
Okay.
All right, so let's go. Sorry, let me go back to that question. So, how many portfolio companies can one general partner reasonably support? So, I mean, they said beyond 10, you start to get stretched out.
Yeah.
I think, you want to be as cost effective as you can without, think about like efficiency versus, just because you can do 10, are you going to give each venture the adequate amount of advice and, operate? Can you, think about working at 10 different places throughout the year, kind of keep those all straight. How many do you guys think? If 10's what they say is what you can do before getting stretched thin. I'd rather, me personally, if I was running the company, I wouldn't want my guys to get burnt out too quickly. So I'd probably say like 8, just to give them a little bit of wiggle room, and then a little bit of room for expansion if that growth does happen rather quickly.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would rather my company err on the side of quality over quantity.
That's what I'm saying.
Personally, I have no idea what goes into, the workload that goes into these. If the difference between supporting 8 and supporting 10 is huge. But if they feel 10, I would even err a little bit more on the side of caution and knock that down to 8.
I agree.
I would go with 8 too.
Okay.
Yeah, same here. Just because your car can go 200 miles an hour doesn't mean you should. You'll destroy your car. So,
That's true.
and no, my car doesn't go that fast.
Yeah.
But it depends what car though.
Yeah. So the next question is economy. Is there an economy of scale in this business? So as costs are gained by, is it cost effective to expand? I think being in venture capitalism, you have to expand because you're competing with, like Bain Capital that's been around since 1938, who has billions of dollars in funds. To get that money, you have to expand and to be able to be relevant and compete and get a leg up. I just don't see. I see the expansion being worth the cost gained.
Yeah, I agree. This is an industry that's all about assets under management and capital invested, and you're either competing with the big companies or you're not, and so you gotta get there because, like you said, there's companies like Bain and other big VC firms that just have huge market shares, and it's just that you got to be able to compete with them and get to where they're at.
Yeah. And then the last, or does everyone agree on that? Does that sound? I think there's enough room, but it has to be unanimous.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. And then will you have to hire more operating team people? If so, will the partners actually make more money for doubling their assets, or will all the additional profits go to hiring more people? My opinion is if I can make the same amount of money and double even if I'm making the same amount of money, doubling it and hiring more people, if I have more people, then I'm helping the economy. I'm giving people jobs. Just right there, living the American dream. Even, and then those guys are going to help me pick up the slack. So even though I'm getting paid the same, I'm, hiring those people to eat up my profits. If it's not going to really add too much more on my workload, then I say do it, because eventually, it'll start to those profits. You'll start to get a little more returns each year. So I think it's worth creating more jobs and helping out the economy overall. Even if I'm just making the same amount of money, I'd rather have a larger company and get my name out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it may cut into your profits initially, but eventually you're going to get to a point where you're not going to be continually growing. And if you've invested in the right talent, it's easier to invest early and then eventually your profits start to expand. But if you don't take the time and the effort and money to hire good talent and build that strong foundation, then you're really not going to get to where you want to go as quickly as you want to get there. So initially, worth the hit, I think, and taking a cut in your profits, because over the long run, once you get to the size and have the talent that you want, it's your profits will continually and exponentially get bigger.
Yeah, and I think that was like the number one focal point of A16Z was the talent they're hiring, their experience. So I think if as it starts an investment, of course, you're losing money, but like you guys were saying, in the long run, it will pay off.
Yeah, and I think even if those profits are going to hiring people, like who cares if you keep expanding, because that'll translate to later, and especially where they have that huge, they're not doing the traditional just trying to stick with these people. they're networking out, that network will continue to grow. And then, who cares about hiring more people if those people keep, adding to that network, getting more capital.
Everybody is right. To me, I feel like sometimes too, even finding the right talent might be a challenge too, because if you're starting out, I could say yes, but as more as you expand, it might become different. But I could go with investing in talent, but I was kind of looking at. I always try to look at it at other different points too. And I was like, maybe sometimes we might need to, in some cases, what if we needed to make sure the investors are good first, but and so you could not have a problem by keep on building. But sometimes the agree with everything goes smoothly with the scouting of talent.
Yeah. We agree, or so does everyone agree that hiring more people would be worth it? Will we?
Yep, I'm in favor of it.
Me too.
Yeah, same here.
Cool. All right. Well, if we just put all, Chris, if you just want to put the notes in, or whenever Darby gets that.
So when is this due?
The questions are due by Saturday. Those 2 questions. So,
are we talking the 2 questions? What should Stephen Carpenter have done differently, and should Z?
Yes.
Okay.
Nah, that was due today. The Stephen Carpenter. I'm sorry. On the 10th at 1 a.m. Basically today. To me, that's kind of like today.
The group. Let me look at my calendar. I'm pretty sure the questions for the group questions don't have to be done till Saturday.
I think the stuff that's done today is our individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the.
So I guess I'm just a little bit confused about what the next steps are. So we answered all those questions. How much can one general partner support?
Mm-hmm.
Is that supposed to be on our individual assignment as well? And the only thing in our group is these 2 questions?
I don't think so. So the questions we just answered, everything we just did was just for the discussion.
Okay.
And then so these 2, we can knock out these 2 questions if you guys want to do that right now. That way we just deal with it. We don't have to.
Do we still post on the board?
We post the questions on the discussion board?
No, like, do we still have? Yeah, like, not post the question, like, but right on the discussion board, right?
Board this week.
No, the discussion board's just to post the video, I'm pretty sure.
But
right?
Not like last week where we post and then we reply to people. I didn't see something like that this week.
No, there's one, but it's just to post the video of us discussing all this.
Is that what you were talking about?
I will do that since I have the video recording and whatnot. But
okay.
Well, let's knock out these questions while we have everything super fresh. If you wouldn't mind being the scribe, Chris.
Yeah. So let me open a new Word doc here, and we'll just.
Thank you.
So we do one.
And where are these questions at again?
They're at the group assignment at the end of the week.
Got it.
Okay. I have a question, guys. So end of the week. So what are what am I supposed to? I don't want to submit
So the only
something
thing
that
you'll
the
have to
group.
submit is the group attendance, because I think we only have to submit one of the responses to these questions, and Chris will do that since he's scribe, and then I'll post the video and the time that we started to take our votes.
Okay, so
I think that's pretty sure that's it.
What is our? Do we have a group number?
Yes, we do. It is group LT3, Learning Team 3.
What I'll do is I'll write this and I'll put it. I'll email it to, or I'll put it on a Google Doc. Or I guess not. I can just upload the group one and LT3 and it'll get everybody's name.
Okay.
Oh.
what about the
Sorry, you cut out.
end of the week? The group discussion. So
The meeting, I'll submit that.
oh, okay. So
Yeah.
like I'm not okay.
Yeah, you'll be okay, because Chris will submit the group assignment with the questions, and then I'll submit the link to this recording on the group on that. So everyone else
Okay.
I think the only thing that you'll have to do is I think there's a quiz.
for participation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the first question we're looking at then is what should Stephen Carpenter have done differently that might have led to a successful venture? So we need to make sure he gives specific actions and expected results.
Okay. So I think he should have waited on, he should have not done the TechCrunch 40. He should have waited and done a little, he did his, research or whatever it's called. Oh man, I lost the word for it. Where, he talks to people about the industry. Jeez Louise.
The focus groups?
Focus groups. Jeez Louise, I cannot come with that. So he did those, which didn't really help that much. I think he should not have rushed into the TechCrunch 40. He should have just waited and done some beta and worked on making the website more user friendly than putting such a large emphasis on the back end.
I agree. I feel like, and it even talks about the reason why Mint was more successful is it was just the front end was better and it was easier for people to use. And
Yeah, exactly. Because and Mint won the TechCrunch that year, the TechCrunch 40, and they didn't offer nearly as many features as Cake Financial was trying to get set up and offered. But if you have a lot more features, but it's harder to use, then no one's going to care about those extra features. They're not going to be able to figure out how to use it.
Right, and I think all of that would have been easier if at the beginning, if he had, maybe he just needed to meet with more people at the beginning, but just, kind of clearly define the objectives and not, just like you said, not shoot for the TechCrunch thing, but just pace himself better. And maybe he just needed to talk to the right people at the beginning.
Question. Sometimes, to be honest, who are the right people? Because everybody always has a opinion of their own.
Yeah.
Because if you come, okay, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if it's Mark coming and saying, "Hey, Jesse, what's your opinion? What's your going to somebody else? What's their opinion?" Maybe everybody might give him like you might have 5 different opinions, but that's why. But in the end of the day, it's your choice. It's kind of like reminds me of free agency. Like it's your playground now. Like you have to choose what's right for what you think it's right.
I think Jesse's right. You can say that I'll just say like, yeah, I should have talked to this guy. He may have given me more advice. But I think at the end of the day, he should have just released a beta, not rush into the TechCrunch. You know, a little more research, he might have realized, oh, you know what? Mint just killed this TechCrunch thing. It's because their product is super easy to use. My product's not as easy to use. Maybe we need to focus more on making the product user friendly, and then we'll get a lot more subscriptions, a lot more people using it.
Right. So maybe it's not so much just trying to find the right, like, one person to talk to you, but, you know, hitting the customer base and saying, okay, well, what do you want? You know, does this even look like it's usable? Something we also talked about earlier is he just didn't get enough feedback. So maybe that's the way he does all that.
Yeah. I think all business is risk, everything, because you go into business, you know, the market could go down one day, go up one day. I think there's smart risk, you know. So I think when you guys are talking about like research and development, that goes big, you know. But sometimes you don't have time for that. But I think he had that opportunity to do that. He didn't do that. But yeah, I think that would have been a good investment.
So we're thinking then, is because it asks for specific actions and expected results. So I think we're somewhat of a consensus. Specific actions, he should have at least gathered more information before releasing, whether through focus groups and beta testing. What do we feel like the expected results would have been? His conversion rate would have been higher?
Yeah, I have one more suggestion for what you should have done differently. I think you should have got rid of the like social media aspect of it. You know, like I mean, maybe still have like a messaging thing, so you know, hit people up, but like not, you know, the whole like, hey, let's compete, you know, that aspect. I think would turn that, as I don't know, when I think of my investment portfolio, I wouldn't want, you know, just Joe Blow, you know, hey, I linked up on your, you know, because, you know, they'd probably link it with Facebook or LinkedIn or something, and then somebody I'm connected on there be like, hey, you know, this guy's doing this, it's really, you know, or he made this much money. I would not do the social media aspect of it.
Okay. So ideas are, yeah, maybe ditch the social media aspect of it, do more beta testing, and just get more consumer data about what they wanted.
Yeah.
Results would have been lower conversion rates. So it asked about expect results, lower conversion rates. He was at 2 to 3% conversion rates, and this would have led to higher revenues initially, allowing him to potentially grow the company quicker than he did.
Yeah. But I think you're right. The growth would be higher. I think you'd get more paid subscriptions. You know, that it takes, you know, because then, I mean, especially like word of mouth too, you know, when you're talking to somebody like, hey man, I'm using this program, it's super easy to use, and it takes all my whole portfolio, all my investments in one spot, would be super nice. That help with word of mouth. Versus, yeah, I tried this product and it's kind of hard to use, so I'm going to go to something else, you know.
Anything else to add to that?
So what did you write down? Sorry.
Yeah, so I had Mr. Carpenter rushed out his initial rollout of Cake Financial to prepare for TechCrunch 40. Our hypothesis is that if he would have waited and put more effort into the front end experience, is that if he would have waited and put more effort into making the front end experience better through more beta testing and research. Man, I got to go back and read this. I was kind of writing as we were talking.
That's okay.
So but basically that he should have waited and put more effort into making the front end experience much better. This could have been achieved through more beta testing and research conducted with potential consumers. The social aspect of investing was a new idea that hadn't been tested at all. For example, Mint enjoyed much more success with less back-end material because their front end was a better experience and had a higher user conversion rate. By waiting and spending more time focusing or doing focus groups, we believe that his customer conversion rate would have been higher than the 2 to 3% that he experienced, and this would have led to higher revenues. These higher revenues would have been generated through word of mouth and signups for paid subscription. This allows for a lot more sustained growth and could have allowed a breakthrough that Cake Financial did not ever experience.
Cool. I like that.
Okay. I didn't know if that was specific enough or.
No, it sounded great to me.
Okay, perfect.
Good.
And then the next
That's
question is, should A16Z seek to double its assets under management over the next 2 years if you support rapid? Okay, so we already did this basically. So yes, they should.
Simple as that.
Yeah, that's it. Just put yes.
Yes. Okay, so we believe that A16Z should seek to double its
Assets. Assets?
Yep, assets under management. What were the reasons? So real quick, so then let's go into what would be the reasons why we can go into the different sectors and what we believe.
So I think they should expand in geography first. Like I said before, I think geography first, get a good establishment in China, New York, these other up and coming tech areas. Lock down that, and then start looking into dipping their feet into the science, life sciences and clean tech. Kind of stick with what's been proven to work, getting extra capital, and then start venturing into, once they've doubled their size and got, a better foundation, they can start expanding into the life sciences and clean tech and get more experts in those areas to come work for them.
All right, I'm just catching up here. If anyone else, feel free to chime in.
Sorry, if anyone disagrees, I'm not trying to just force my opinion out there. I just think I feel like that would be the approach to take.
Yeah, I think, as far as like China, New York, especially New York, I feel New York is such a diverse place, not only culturally, but economically. So I think to kind of branch out and diversify into that market, it'd be really interesting to see, how everything would work out there, because I think it's a perfect market.
Imagine China just think about their booming, tech and everything, just be large economy to tap in on, or large market.
Oh yeah, with the booming middle class there too.
Yeah, thinking about all the growth.
Sorry, I'm just catching up here.
Type faster, man.
I wish we could do like text to speech or speech to text.
All right. So this is what I have for this. We believe that A16Z should seek to double its assets under management over the next 2 years. We feel like this would be beneficial as it allows them to grow and compete with other big players in the market. As far as expansion goes, they should look to expand geographically first and then venture into new sectors later. They have a good handle on the tech market in Silicon Valley, but the geographical areas of New York and China present a great opportunity for them. In order to mitigate risk, they should stay within the tech sector for now, but once they have a firm grasp on the tech market, they can afford to take the risk of moving into other sectors such as clean energy, etc. We feel that growing within the tech sector first and branching out into other sectors later provides the greatest opportunity for growth while mitigating the most risk and providing some sort of safety to their overall company health.
I like that.
That's real good.
Is there like a minimum length?
No, I don't think so. It just says compose your response in a Word document and submit your write-up to your instructor.
Okay. So I will go through and I just kind of wrote these out as we were talking. So I'll go through and make them sound a little bit better. I will send an email. That same email that the Hangout link came in. And if you all want to proofread it, as soon as I get the okay from everybody, I'll go ahead and upload it.
Cool, sounds good.
Cool. Thank you.
Guys,
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
have a good one.
Thank you.